Hello，大家好，歡迎嚟我哋 FM105.9嘅文化新生活之家國生活啦。咁今日咧，我哋有特別嘉賓，同埋有平時嘅慣常主持啦。我哋嘅監製蕭公子啦，同埋 Michael 井啦，亦都有我哋士嘉堡愛政國嘅國會議員葉嘉麗嘅 Jean Yip，the Member of Parliament of Scarborough Agincourt。咁我哋今日咧有兩個 topic 啦。我哋上集咧就會講喺 Scarborough Agincourt 裏邊 Bridletown 嘅一個將會建成一個新嘅社區中心啦。咁有幾個本土喺 Scarborough Agincourt 裏邊嘅合作伙伴咧嘅社區組織咧，會喺嗰度咧係提供服務嘅。呢一個係上半部嘅。咁我哋下半部咧就會講啲同聯邦有關嘅移民嘅議題啦，即係例如Islamophobia 又或者種族歧視啊之類嘅嘢。咁上半場咧，我哋交俾你啦 ，Michael。
Yeah. Let me start the conversation on the local level. Jane, I know that the Bridletown Neighborhood Center was initiated by your husband. You realized his dream. What do you feel? After the completion of this center, what do you think was the impact on the whole community, especially in Scarborough?
Well, I'm ecstatic that this project is coming through, that the funding on the federal level, which is $26.7 million, has come through, and we're working with other levels of government, like the province as well as the City of Toronto and our community partners to really build a hub. And the impact of this hub will be tremendous because it not only affects my riding of Scarborough Agincourt, but all of northern Scarborough and even southern Scarborough. There will be a 50 units of dialysis center in the hub operated by the Scarborough Health Network. There will be recreational and program space run by the YMCA, where there will be a pool, recreation center, as well as space to house other physical activity programs for youth, for seniors and families. And the United Way will be running a Hong Fook nurse practitioner-led clinic to offer basic medical services to the community, which I think is important. And they'll also be offering other physical spaces for social organizations. So whether you're coming in for a swim or coming in for counseling, nobody will know. It's a great way to go into the hub and do what is important to you, whether it's keeping fit or getting medical services. So that is the impact that it will have in Scarborough. And I am very pleased to be able to continue my late husband, Arnold Chan Tangano, his work, and it is one of the main reasons why I decided to become a member of parliament. So I am very grateful that to our Minister of Infrastructure, Catherine McKenna, as well as to my Scarborough colleagues for their support, Gary Anasangari, Minister Blair, MP Selma Zahid, MP Sean Chen, and MP John McKay for their invaluable support. And this is a 82,440 square foot building. So it's going to be quite the building, and I'm excited to see construction start in January 2023.
Yeah, after the completion of these centers, you already mentioned a lot of recreation facilities will be there, but in the opening ceremony, they also mentioned that it's the opportunities to increase jobs, to stimulate economies. How this center have this kinds of positive effect on the economic side?
Well, I think that it definitely will create jobs. Just opening up a 50-unit dialysis center by the Scarborough Health Network, you're going to need healthcare professionals, and then there's also building staff, maintenance staff, indoors, outdoors. Then for the Y, there's recreational staff, lifeguards. So really the number of jobs and the variety will be quite something. And then of course, the nurse practitioners and corresponding staff for the nurse practitioner clinic, and of course, social agencies, whether they're executive director level or outreach officers. So I think there's a lot to offer in terms of employment and its subsequent impact on the community.
議員頭先啱講過咧，就話 呢個中心呢個新嘅中心咧，動用咗6690萬一個大巨款嘅政府項目，有聯邦啦、省啦同埋市方面嘅政府參與嘅。呢個項目咧喺社區方面、文化方面，以至經濟方面咧，都帶嚟好正面嘅影響。咁有其他各個團體參與，亦都有啲健康團體參與嘅話咧，換即係疫情期間咧，都幫到啲有需要健康嘅人。當然社區中心入邊有啲娛樂設施啦，但係咧中心建立嘅時候咧，會有新嘅人手招聘啦。咁嘅情況之下，亦都可以製造到就業咧，刺激到經濟嘅。換言之咧，佢可以完成到佢前夫陳家樂嘅一個願望嘅話咧，佢覺得係一個非常之有榮幸同埋一個好觸動嘅項目嚟嘅。Anna， 對於頭先葉議員提到咧，呢個社區中心有咁多方面嘅作用，文化、健康、經濟等等嘅話咧，你作為嘉禾嘅總幹事咧，你點樣睇呢個中心嘅完成咧？對你自己本身嘅組織或者成個社區有咩影響？你覺得？
首先咧，嘉禾咧就唔係呢一個 community hub 嘅其中一個成員嘅，呢喺呢現階段都唔係啦嚇。咁但係我哋都好高興啦，可以喺 Scarborough Agincourt 呢個 riding 裏邊，其實多一啲呢一類型嘅地方啦。因為其實 Scarborough Agincourt 你話 agency 少咧就唔係嘅，其實喺 Jean 嘅 riding 裏邊咧係有幾多呢一方面嘅社區組織嘅，但係咧就可能比較散啦，同埋大家都係各佔啲比較細嘅啲嘅 offices 啦。咁有陣時即係做好受嗰個 landlord 嗰個 tenants 嗰個arrangement 限制啦，咁令到有陣時其實就係幫手綁腳啦，同埋少咗 group space 啦，係咪？咁而家喺呢一個撥款情況之下，有一個咁大，頭先阿 Jean 話有82000幾尺，係咪？咁跟住有青年會 YWCA 啦，有Care First 啦，有康復係 United Way 資助嘅護士長嘅 clinic 啦，有好多唔同類型嘅心理治療照顧心理或者生理健康嘅嘢，定係咧就係文娛康樂嘅設施啊？好似阿 Jean 咁講，你根本上你入到去咧，你係需要做精神健康嘅治療，定係你要去玩做運動？其實係冇人知嘅，係咪？咁就可以打破咗呢個 stigma 呢個標籤化嗰個隔膜啦。咁係打破隔膜係好事啦，同埋咧就係將佢擺入嘅人群裏邊，係咪？我可以去游水，我可以去參加畫畫班。同時，我亦都可以獲取我所需要嘅社區服務。咁啊，對於新移民嚟講咧，嗰個barrier 就比較細咧，就容易啲入屋啦。係好嘅運用公帑嘅方式啦。咁同埋一個 concept，另外一個點解好嘅咧，就係好高興三級政府都係明白呢個叫做 social determinants of health 呢一個 concept。係咪 social determinants of health 就話一個人點樣會健康咧？佢身體要健康，佢心靈要健康，佢有社交嘅支援，佢要有穩定嘅收入，佢有適當嘅語言能力啦、教育程度啦，同埋佢嗰個政府體制啊，或者佢住嘅社區要係安全嘅，佢家庭要係和睦嘅，所有呢10幾種因素加埋，一個人先至會係 healthy 健康，係咪？咁所以咧，希望透過好似呢一類型嘅中心咧，係可以照顧到10幾種 social determinants of health 裏邊好大部分，令到社區裏邊嘅人士咧或者家庭咧都係健康嘅。
係very good.
Can I just add also that we have not forgotten about the children. There will be licensed childcare from infant to preschool, as well as before and after school programming. So we really want to welcome families and offer them some support.
我仲照顧埋小朋友添啊，係咪？有 daycare 啦，同埋你放學亦都可以擺低佢啦。返學放學即係爹哋媽咪夜放工啊，其實可以加多個 program 俾佢啦。咁其實即係好似阿 Michael 咧頭先講，係咪增加就業啊？係咪？我唔使因為要帶小朋友湊小朋友，趕住3點鐘放工，然之後咧1蚊1分鐘，咁係非常之
係啊。
阿 Michael 我有啲 personal 嘅 experience 咧，就想 share with 阿專業嘅。
好啊，你講。或者你講之前，我或者想跟進頭先講，因為頭先我跟進頭先我講前夫係錯咗，係唔啱前夫係陳家樂係葉議員嘅去咗世丈夫，佢就接咗佢，唔可以接咗，係將佢嘅前夫嘅遺願咧係落實咗，真係起咗個中心出嚟。 並唔係前夫提，先對
That's
住
the
我
question.
我翻譯
That's
錯
the
咗佢。
question I was gonna ask, right? So
係。
我個 personal experience actually 我喺 Bridletown Circle 嗰度附近住嘅，30年前，講緊80年代啊，so 30-40年前。So at the time, my parent, they sort of every on a daily basis go to the Bridletown Circle Mall to take a walk. So there was a library in there as well. So, but actually they were quite, like a sort of satisfied at the time. But I thought at the time, if there's a community center, it would be perfect for them as well. But it never happened. So Arnold come with the idea, to have a Bridletown community center. I think it's much needed. So, after the longest time, at least 20 years before it
Well,
happened.
I'm going to just jump in here. It actually has been 13 years since the idea was first suggested by Ms. Lai Chu, a community activist, and later taken up with Mr. Pat Sherman and working in conjunction with the Scarborough Health Network. And they approached Sue Wong because she was the school board trustee, and the school, Timothy Eaton, was part of the school board. And they worked all together to get the land ready for selling. And then Sue approached former councillor Norm Kelly to be involved, and approached Mayor David Miller. And he presented it to council. So there's many levels of government, many hands, and it involves all different parties and to make this work. And from there, it went on, and former Mayor Rob Ford actually bought the land, and former MPP Sue Wong, she was able to obtain $40 million for the dialysis center from the Ministry of Health. So that was huge. And so when you put all these working parts together, and then Arnold's involvement was working with MP Adam Vaughan. Before then, charities and nonprofits needed a government partner in order to do infrastructure projects, and they changed that. And so now they are able to apply on their own and be successful, and that's what the Y did. And I'm very pleased that the federal government has been able to offer our contribution.
Yeah, so MP 商業就講嘅就係呢個 project 咧就唔係淨係 Arnold 做，其實要 more for 好多嘅唔同嘅 level 嘅。咁先前有兩個有13年前有嘅 advocate 咧就話 come up with 一個 idea， 有個 health center 同埋 community center 嘅 concept。咁咧就 actually 就 Sue Wong also play a big part， 用咗40個 million acquire 用咗啲錢啊買啲地啦 ，at the same time 咧就即係get the funding for the diarrhea center。咁然之後Arnold 嘅 work 咧就係coordinate with Adam Wong to make sure the funding is available。咁所以呢個係一個好大型嘅 initiative 啊。咁啊13年嘅 effort 咧終於冇白費啦。咁 actually so my question actually come down, I was gonna turn around and ask because I know Arnold for quite some time, I know his passion and everything. So unfortunately, he got into, with fighting with the nature, and the premature, death, How do you, given at the time you have 3 kids, there's 3個細路, and being widowed, how do you, a sort of transition that change, and then take the baton of, Arnold and take it on his beliefs, or his passion? How does that?
Well, thank you very much for that question. Arnold and I and our family have always had shared liberal values and also with an emphasis on community and service. And because we had those things in common, it just felt natural to be able to try to carry on his legacy and also to give back to the community that supported him and our family. And as well, I wanted to really complete this project and also to see something of a subway for Scarborough. And this past month, it's been a great news event, both for the hub as well as the Scarborough subway extension. And in terms of my family, it was very difficult because my kids were still young in high school, and it's the work-life balance, there wasn't any. And when you have to travel to Ottawa every week it makes it that more difficult. But to me, it gave my kids a measure of independence and responsibility, maybe a little bit early, but it served them in good stead because now 2 of them are in university and they've been able to manage quite well because they've developed the life skills. So in that way, it's been good for the family and also exposed them to what public service is about and what was important to their father. And so it keeps that thread of connection with them.
葉議員
And
提出
him.
葉議員頭先提出一個好感人嘅經歷，就係話咧，當陳家樂議員去世嘅時候咧，去負起嗰頭家，照顧小朋友，而喺度兼顧到佢國會議員嘅工作，要喺自己嘅屋企多倫多同埋Ottawa之間來回咁走嘅時候咧，係非常之唔容易嘅。但係同樣地咧，要育成咗佢陳家樂嘅使命，建立呢個中心同埋服務士家堡嘅社區嘅話咧。葉議員喺呢方面咧付出咗好多，喺家庭、喺社區、喺各方各面都做出呢樣嘢嘅話咧，我哋應該好值得為葉議員驕傲。而家做出呢個 project 之後咧，咁但係下一步就話成個社區點樣發展咧？頭先葉議員都提過就話地鐵嗰方面嘅部分。So I will ask the question regarding the improvement of the public transit, especially what you mentioned about the Scarborough subway. What's the latest situation on the expansion and improvement of the Scarborough subway project now?
In May, we announced a federal investment of $2.26 billion for the construction and completion of the Scarborough subway extension. And that is big news because like the hub, it has taken a while and we had originally given our federal money and it had sat for a few years. So I'm really glad that we are addressing the LRT issue because it was aging. And this extension will add nearly 8 additional kilometers of rail into Scarborough. So since 2015, members of the Scarborough Liberal Caucus, we have been advocating extensively for this development of rapid transit. So there's 3 stations coming from Kennedy Station. There will be Lawrence Avenue East, Scarborough Center, that's where the town center is, and Shepherd Avenue East. There will be about 105 projected daily boardings. And there's also the fact that we will be connected to 6 additional transit options, the GO train line to Stouffville, 2 local rapid transit lines at Eglinton Crosstown, planned connections to the future Shepherd subway. You know, once this project was announced, I turned around and I mentioned to the Minister of Infrastructure, you know, there is always the Shepherd subway that needs to be mentioned and that we need, right. Because I can tell you in our community of Scarborough Agincourt, right in that corner of Kennedy and Shepherd, it is going to be extremely busy. By the end of this year, there should be about 11 condos in total right in the southeast corner by Kennedy and the 401 and Shepherd in that whole area. It's called the Village. Yeah, it is huge. Village Square community or Metrogate community. And then on the north west side of Kennedy and Shepherd, we have the Agincourt Mall Revitalization Project, which will have at least 4 additional towers, plus also the redevelopment of the mall. There'll still be a Walmart, there'll still be a grocery store, but it will be very different. And so in order to service this number of people, we really do need to have the proper transit. And of course, there have been other condo developments all along Shepherd in Pharmacy and the Wishing Well area.
Anna, sounds like you need a branch over there.
I'm okay for now, but yeah. It's going to be a bigger, vibrant community for us to serve. That's for sure.
Yeah, and we shouldn't forget the fact that just with this subway extension, we will reduce yearly greenhouse gas emissions by 10,000 tons.
Oh, that's important.
And I hope that it will encourage more housing development, more accessibility to businesses, and just really create more of a community, more extended walking, a more personable aspect to it.
同埋同時有咗地鐵其實完善咧，其實嗰個經濟亦都會起飛啦。亦都多啲班次啦，頭先議員咁講啦。咁其實翻工係容易啲嘅。咁亦都希望嗰個失業率咧會降低啦，變咗個士嘉堡個愛政個士嘉堡咧嗰個區咧，其實嗰個貧窮線咧就冇咁多人喺裏邊啦嚇。咁都希望呢一方面有幫助。
其實好多新移民咧，好多時落腳就喺士嘉堡㗎。頭先葉議員提咗個 Canadian Shepherd 嗰度咧，正係好多新移民落去嘅地方。所以見到話喺嗰個地方咧 ，Agent 咧就好就係相當交通相當擠塞，同埋好多大廈起咗上嚟嘅時候咧，如果地鐵嘅建立咧，真係可以舒緩到當地嘅交通從而咧可以促動到個社區嘅發展，無論社會服務啊、經濟方面都有嘅正面影響。阿多汪啊，或者阿玲，你覺得頭先葉議員所講嘅地鐵嗰個咁嘅作用同埋社區嘅關係咧，你點樣睇咧？就話而家見到越嚟越多人越嚟越多移民嚟啦，而士嘉堡係好多時候落腳嘅地方嘅話咧，呢方面嘅建設咧，對成個社區有咩影響，或者有咩嘅意義咧？其實特別係地鐵方面，你兩個可唔可以表示下你意見？
做個 brief 嘅 feedback 啦。So support subway. I'm one of those guys who supported at the time.
Yeah.
We did the petition at the time. 咁其實即係嗰個係一個即係幾好嘅，因為 subway 始終係一個即係 the high order transit 啦。佢可以咧 bring 即係當然要有 cost 存在，但係佢 at the same time 係 bring in 一啲 economy。bring in 一個 density， 令到即係嗰區咧就比較上可以繁榮多好多嘅。Given the time right now 咧 ，Agent Court 我哋嘅興隆中心，因為嗰度 development 唔夠客，咁然之後加 die down 啦，係咪 ？Everybody know that，right？Because cannot survive。但係 bringing in 呢啲 subway 呢啲 concept 咧，可以令到嗰個 local 嗰個 economy 咧就相對嚟講係蓬勃咗好多。咁更加有咁多 condo build 咧 ，at the same time will strengthen 嗰邊嘅 local business。But I don't want to take too much of the time because basically I've been moved out Scarborough for the longest time, at least 30 years. So I think Anna have more recent update, as what to happen. So you want to go ahead? Yeah.
咁其實咧喺士嘉堡愛政角呢個區咧，我諗葉議員亦都好清楚啦。佢係 one of the most diverse cities in Canada，right? Areas in Canada，right? 係咩人種都有啦，係好新嘅移民有啦，有啲 Old Scarborough 或者好耐嚟咗好多代嘅人亦都有啦。咁普遍我哋係使用衞生健康公共 doctors 啊。primary care 嗰個使用率係比較低嘅，即係就算係 LIN 嘅 data 都話俾我哋聽嗰方面比較低嘅，但係用急症室個率又比較多，係咪？咁其實個失業率又多啦，同埋嗰個人均嘅生產咧，其實咧就唔係嗰條線好高啦，喺呢個區裏邊係咪？所以咧你會見到咁可能啲租金平啲，亦都因為佢個需要量大啦。我哋啲社區組織好多都喺呢一個區裏邊嘅嚇。咁如果有咗地鐵沿線嘅話，就真係會帶來好多蓬勃嘅生意機會啦、就業機會啦，令到交通方便啲咧。即係就算係 single mom 啊，係咪都好容易去揾到可以做到幾個鐘嘅工作，然之後翻嚟可以接翻小朋友啊。咁亦都有呢啲咁嘅地方，亦都可以有地方擺低小朋友，好似頭先講 Bridletown 嗰個 child care。係咪？你可以擺低小朋友，令到你可以去做嘢啦。咁即係希望咧，都係講翻個 social determinants of health，right？有經濟、有就業、有讀書、有社區中心、有醫療同埋社福保障喺呢個區裏邊。咁我哋嘅區咧就已經演變成 transforming from 一個比較舊啦同埋窮嘅區咧，變成一個比較新嘅 neighborhood， 好似頭先 Jean 用嗰個就係 revitalization 咁樣咯。咁最後啦，我希望咧都講啦，阿 Jean 你係咪打咗針啊？而家係咪好辛苦啊？
唔係，要打針。我琴日打咗針，喺依度今日少難啲，but I'm okay， 因為我今日做咗好多嘢 ，and 我可以同你嚟一齊講嘢，就算好啦。
其實打針都做到嘢嘅。
Yeah， 我今次 I think 好啲than上一次。So 第一次我係打咗 Pfizer， 呢個係第二次係又打 Pfizer。第一次我去咗 Scarborough Health Network， 去咗 Care First。So 你知道 Care First 啦，係一個 community clinic。 Yeah, they're very good. 因為如果你要翻譯中文、廣東話or 普通話，佢哋可以翻譯。同埋今次第二次我去打針喺嗰個 local pharmacy village square pharmacy 喺 Victoria Park 同埋 Finch 試下點樣嗰啲 pharmacies 做細啲，冇咁多人but 一樣好。So 我好開心打咗第二個針。It gives me great peace of mind.
Now the vaccination is speeding up. What do you think about the future of the reopening of the society? What do you expect the next step?
I think we really, before we rush to a big reopening, I think we really need to focus on getting our Canadians vaccinated, their second dose. We should do things in stages. Right now, we have about 75% of eligible Canadians vaccinated for their first dose, and we are about at 19% for the second dose. So I do think we have a ways to go. In Scarborough, particularly in our riding, where we have about 27% of seniors, we are, the Scarborough Health Network is focusing on seniors living in congregate care buildings. And I think they are replicating their initial strategy of vaccinating the seniors first, and also with the eye for other essential populations. They have also sent out posters and communications encouraging people who live in certain postal codes where there is more of a priority regarding the Delta variant to encourage them to go and get vaccinated.
議員講得好好，就話70%人已經打咗第一針咧，去鼓勵多啲人打第二針。喺呢個情況之下咧，如果第二針打咗嘅時候咧，對嗰個社會嘅開放咧係容易啲進行嘅。Alex 好似有嘢講。
Yeah. Actually, like I receive a lot of email from Jane, office. Almost on a weekly basis, there's update. So the conscious effort from you, and get the.
Does that every day? 佢日日都做㗎。
Every day,
well, I'll just say this: I have a terrific team, and that support me in this, and I am always watching for vaccine information, whether it's from the Scarborough Health Network, the province, or the City of Toronto, or even the pharmacies, and because this is important. This is an important health initiative. We need to save lives. We need to make sure that we can reopen our economy, support our businesses, and just get on with having a more normal life. So that's why every day, it's true, Anna, I do post on social media whatever information we can get, and then I also send out letters to nonprofit organizations, businesses, as well as interfaith organizations, anywhere where people congregate, or not in person, but are part of a fellowship, let's say. It's important to get the word out. And so we also have, we have that weekly vaccine letter where we give out federal information as well as the other levels of government and Scarborough Health Network.
Yeah. By the way, I can concur that you have a great team. I have contact with Jerome all the time. He always reply to me, and he also explained there may be a possibility that depending on how your vaccination develops, so we sort of know that you may get pain because of your first time is being painful, right? So anyway, you got a great team to help the community. Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Michael, by the way, we it's about time for a break. So shall we take a break?
大家翻到嚟 FM105.9 嘅文化新生活之差一個生活啦，咁我哋亦都係有我哋間場主持人我 Anna 嘅嘉禾啦，嘉禾嘅 Anna 啦，跟住我哋嘅監製蕭公子啦，同埋 Michael 仔，我哋嘅時事評論員嘅。我哋今日特別嘉賓咧就係士嘉堡愛政國嘅國會議員葉嘉麗 Jean 葉啦 ，Hello， 我哋多謝翻到嚟。雖然你打完針咁辛苦，你都陪我哋講多一陣啊嚇。嗱，咁我哋頭先上半集咧，其實就講咗士嘉堡係一個好特別嘅地方，特別係愛政國啦，有新移民，有好新嘅移民，亦都有好舊嘅移民。但係咧，佢絕對一樣嘢可以認同咧，就係加拿大其中一個最多元文化嘅地區之一嚇。咁喺呢一度咧，我哋亦都喺疫情裏邊啦，我就算喺嘉禾都知道啦，疫情其實有個 shadow pandemic 影子疫情嚇，影響到人哋嘅心理啦，影響到經濟啦，影響到家庭嘅和睦啦，個人心理質素啦。除咗真係你個肺部健康之外，最重要咧就帶來一個比較更加負面嘅事咧，就係種族歧視嚇。咁呢個疫情 嘅期間咧，就好多新聞出咗，就係關於反亞情緒啊、仇華情緒、anti-Asian hate Chinese racism 啊，係咪啲咁樣嘅嘢？咁因為時家報咧係咁 diverse 咯，係咪？咁其實咧，葉議員，你覺得喺我哋嘅區呢一個問題有冇發生到咧？即係其實我都知道啦，無論係聯邦政府、省政府、城市政府咧，都喺呢一段時間有就住種族歧視咧，去撥款俾唔同嘅機構啦，多啲做呢一個公眾教育去避免呢樣嘢啦，同埋提升嘅認知性嘅嚇。咁但係其實你覺得我哋現時我哋嘅區有冇喺呢個受到影響咧？You can answer in English.
Okay, so I'm just going to say that 我哋嘅區有好多中國人 so we are inching up to 50% of Chinese descent in Scarborough Aging Court. And no matter what MP Sean Chen says, I think that I have the largest Chinese community for the government on our side in terms of...
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Well, thank you for that.
He did not say this is the largest, so he just says
he's one of the, but we are the.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay,
yes. Well, I'm glad he's now saying that. So we always have this friendly rivalry over this, but we work very closely together. MP Sean Chen, and in fact, with all the Scarborough MPs on joint initiatives. So we did have some incidents, even though we are, such a Asian community here, and that extends not just East Asian, but also South Asian, West, and Central. There were still some incidents. For example, at the Chinese Cultural Center, there was graffiti just across, actually, in Sean's riding, but it's right on the border with mine. There was a 52-year-old man who was physically assaulted while ordering takeout. Investigation is still pending. And a constituent reported to me that they were mocked because they were an interracial couple. She was Chinese and her husband is Caucasian, and sworn at and just spit at. So they were, this was in a moving car. So they were quite, distressed over this, because you don't think that this would actually happen in Scarborough Aging Court, where there's such a diverse and tolerant community. So nevertheless, even though these incidents may seem few, there is, I'm sure, a lot more. It is important that our community report these incidents. Even if the police doesn't take it, it doesn't matter. We need to have it reported, even to the police, because if they get enough data, let's say in a certain area, they will track it. And for greater policy development, there is one organization that takes the data from people. There's a website, and once you report in your information, they're able to say the number of times, the type of incident, and really give more oomph to what needs to be recommended in terms of anti-Asian initiatives. So no incident is too small and should be taken seriously.
冇數據就冇資源，冇資源就冇行動，係咪？頭先葉議員就係話，無論你受害嗰個嘅程度係大定少啦，都應該同警方度做報案啦。就算警方做唔做嘢，你都可以報咗案，就算係就簡單如上網做一個 report， 係咪？因為冇呢個數據嘅話咧，就冇人知道嗰個嚴重性。如果係你某一區嗰度特別多呢件事件發生嘅話咧，就可以有多啲資源啦，去行使更多嘅行動去制止呢樣嘢啦，甚至係或者係避免呢樣嘢嘅嚇。咁但係咧，即係除咗講真正嘅，即係有人受害，有啲係即係 hate crime 之類嘅嘢啦，或者 hate speech 之類嘅嘢咧，有陣時有啲咧係 misinformation， 亦都有啲係 disinformation。係咪 misinformation 咧？就可能有陣時我啲人喺個 circulate 個好 viral 嘅，係咁有個黃色人跟住同一個黑色人打交，又或者黃色人同一個白色人打交，跟住咧就會被 caption 成為我白人打華人啊咁樣，係咪？咁跟住咧就係瘋狂咁，人哋覺得呢個係一個 racial attack 啦乜，但係可能係完全唔關，係可能係6、7年前嘅事啦。嗰個亦都唔係華人啦。 咁其實可能係初生口角繼而動武，係爭女又好，爭錢又好，係咪？咁呢一個咧係誤傳，令到大家覺得有好多歧視華人嘅情況啊，亦都有啲係 disinformation 係特登嘅，係咪？即係啲係假消息、假新聞，唔係誤傳㗎，係咪？即係製造啲嘢出嚟，喺度話某種人係喺某度地方播病毒啊，又或者某種人慣咗呃錢啊，某種人慣咗乜嘢 stereotype， 用啲 stereotype 嘅嘢嚟 fabricate 啲 news 出嚟，令到某種人被歧視，又或者令到某種人被覺得永遠就係歧視人，係咪？咁其實咧，我知道咧，聯邦政府其實都有撥款喺呢一方面咧，就係希望喺公眾咧做多啲教育啦，就係關於 misinformation 同埋 disinformation 嘅。咁我身為業界咧，我覺得呢樣嘢係非常之好啦，因為其實就係即係搞清楚咩叫 racism 先，係咪？即係如果 Anna 行出去殺咗人咧 ，Anna 係黃皮膚咧，係唔會走得甩嘅，即係唔可以因為我係黃皮膚而喂你種族歧視我，你唔應該拉我，兩件事嚟嘅喎，係咪先？咁Gina，what do you think in terms of the work that the federal government is planning to do to combat misinformation and disinformation and possible hijacking of the term racism and possible foreign infiltration? That's a loaded question.
Well, I will just say this, that we were, in fact, the first government to create Canada's anti-racism strategy, even before all the rise of these anti-Asian incidents back in 2019 and 15, yes, as well as we established the Federal Anti-Racism Secretariat, and we invested an additional $50 million into anti-racism initiatives in the fall economic statement in 2020, and in this year's budget 2021, we're investing $11 million in the Canada Race Relations Foundations to facilitate initiatives like the establishment of a national coalition to support Asian Canadian communities. And we're also investing into improved collection and use of disaggregated data. I can't emphasize how important it is to have the data. I was really heartened to hear at the ACT Foundation, yesterday's event, how they had a project that was looking into disaggregated data. So I'm glad that some of the funding has helped them be able to develop this project.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think it's about 140 million approximately for the Statistic Canada to collect the ethnic data. Yeah.
我有個問題想問下葉議員啊，借呢個機會，因為曾經有人提出就話咧，聯邦政府或者地方政府要解決嗰個反亞裔種族問題嘅話咧，好似落錯錢或者落錯策略。舉例嚟講，喺大多倫多文化中心放啲錢俾你搞唱歌跳舞啲文娛嘅嘢咧，只係有娛樂有快樂帶俾人哋，但係冇實際解決到嗰個反亞裔種族嗰個歧視問題。I want to address to our MP that some critics said if you do the funding like in Greater Toronto, Greater Cultural Centre, Chinese Cultural Centre of Greater Toronto, funding them for dancing, for singing, for recreations is not exactly address the problem. Therefore, you should allocate suitable money and good direction to address it. Otherwise, it is just waste of money. How do you respond to this kind of critics?
Well, thank you very much for that comment. And, it's important to celebrate our culture. And, that is through our community funding, but we also have more targeted funding, as I just mentioned, through the Canadian Race Relations Foundation, as well as specific anti-racism initiatives. For example, the Anti-Racism Secretariat set up a equity-seeking communities and COVID-19 task force. So that works with government organizations and organizations in the Asian communities to ensure that any anti-Asian racism experiences due to COVID is be able to worked on and also shared in order to better support policy changes. So we also have introduced the Digital Citizen Initiative to build resilience against online disinformation. So while also countering anti-Asian hate and discrimination, I think these speak to extremely targeted topics as opposed to just singing and dancing. You will always have an element of that because part of educating children is through singing and dancing, but at the same time we have some very serious initiatives. And if you cannot educate families and children, the cycle of hate never goes away. And also there must be adequate mental health supports, not just after it happens, but before, when people are feeling frustrated. And that's where the good work that Anna does with her agency, as well as the Hong Fook, the Mental Health Youth Clinic, also plays a role, as well as SEAS, all in our Scarborough Agincourt riding.
Yes.
葉議員
That's
都
where the
解
good do-gooders are.
議員都解釋咗，其實唱歌跳舞都唔係唔可以唔做嘅，我哋都要俾啲娛樂啲大眾。而家從呢啲咁活動入邊咧，可以教育到下一代。但係咧，佢都講過，聯邦政府都有目的、有目標地去解決嗰個亞裔歧視問題，即係話佢哋係兩條腿走路，既有娛樂性嘅方面、教育方面，亦都有嚴肅地對待一啲種族歧視問題，譬如喺數據、喺電子數據方面嘅目標對付啊等等嘅嘢。即係換之咧，有啲咁嘅批評咧，葉議員覺得唔全面嘅。
咁葉議員同時亦都喺度話啦，佢都好明白咧，如果係小朋友從細要有呢一方面嘅教育啦，知道人哋嘅文化啦，包括文娛啦、藝術啦，所有嘅嘢先至可以令到其實將個歧視嘅循環咧係打破，令到佢長大嘅時候唔會再有呢樣嘢嘅嚇。咁所以咧，其實我哋都知道啦，最近省府嘅 Ministry of Education 咧係拱咗啲錢出嚟啦，我哋嘉禾亦都係其中一個受惠機構啦。其實我哋都知道嗰筆錢咧喺聯邦喺 federal 度嚟嘅，咁係佢哋落到個省府嗰度啦，咁佢就有咗呢一個 Safe Return to School 嘅計劃啦，就係俾3-4個 organizations 喺個學校裏邊咧提供公眾教育啦，同埋好似頭先葉議員咁講，有啲心理嘅輔導啦，係俾受影響嘅青少年同埋佢嘅家庭咧去提供攞到佢適當嘅協助嘅。但係我諗我終於就變咗一個唔好人啦！我今日最後我想問嘅唯一一個比較尖鋭少少嘅問題咧，就係同我哋頭先講嗰個 racism agenda 有關。但係因為 racism 呢一個 agenda 咧係好容易被利用，好容易被 hijack 成為外方勢力、外國勢力可以好容易利用 racism 呢個 agenda hijack 咗佢嚟成就佢哋嘅 foreign infiltration 嘅。So I would like to know, this is probably, if there is one, this is probably the only critical question that I have today is, how do we, as a federal government, prevent foreign powers from hijacking the agenda of racism versus patriotism in order to facilitate their foreign infiltration work. This is a way, there must be ways we are, adopting to protect Canadians, right?
It's very simple. You need to be aware of what is being said in the Chinese media, in the mainstream media, in the WeChat, Weibo, WhatsApp, and whatever else, TikTok, that they have in terms of social media. And you have to be armed with the facts. If you think something is incredulous, it probably is. So check out what the facts are. The internet isn't always 100% accurate. And I think that we have enough mainstream Chinese newspapers that actually report the facts, and we need to be aware. There is also, if you feel you are being threatened in any way, go to your local police and talk to them as well. You can report any of this type of incidents to this website called ELIMIN, that's ELIMIN, number 8, hate.org, O-R-G. That is a really useful website for reporting incidences. And also you can reach out to the RCMP and also your local provincial police force. In Ontario, it would be the OPP, just depending on the jurisdiction. It's important to speak out early and just be aware.
咁葉議員頭先咧就係話，其實咧大家都好清楚咧，有啲媒體係比較可信啦，有啲媒體係冇比較可信啦。咁即係社交媒體，例如啲 TikTok 啊、WeChat 啊、微博啊，咁又會有比較多啲係其實係未 verify、未 fact check 嘅資料啦。咁如果你覺得有啲嘢係咁奇怪，即係啲陰謀論啊，我次次咧對住個鏡頭話要有人打針咧，就會有啲喺上述嘅媒體就會有人同我講，你唔好嗌人打針啊！啲針係啲外國人害我哋中國人嘅，佢想我哋病多啲啊！
Yeah, and that's where it's really important to say is no, there are no microchips in the vials of the needles or the 5G network. We don't have that kind of time to do that type of thing. And it's really important to check out the Vax Facts sheet offered by the Scarborough Health Network, as well as the federal government. We just have it's called the Campaign Experts for Vaccination Information. All of that you can find on my social media, as well as just going on the canada.ca website. I think it's really important to know that we are working on the online hate, and we've identified some of these white supremacist groups that we need to stop all this dissemination of hate out there. It's not acceptable.
咁即係佢亦都之前就係話，如果你覺得你係受害咧，要同你自己嘅本地嘅警隊聯絡啦，甚至有某個情況咧，你係要同皇家騎警聯絡啦，又或者呢個邊境管理局啦。咁係喺網上面有好多欺凌啦，亦都有好多假消息啦。我哋要識得分辨真偽啦，自己要做一個正確嘅判斷啦。如果有問題嘅時候上官網啦，佢亦都話邊有咁得閒擺個 microchip 落嚟嗰支針度打落嚟嘅身度啊！即係真係好多人得閒冇嘢做咩？
啲 chip 好唔平㗎，
同埋擺落你度會唔會多啲 5G signal 啊嘛？
So I do want to talk about the Chinese Cultural Center and how they've been invaluable during this pandemic times in educating people with their vaccine information, as well as helping a lot of seniors and those who are vulnerable with their one meal at a time. And they also provide an opportunity to teach others about the history of Chinese Canadians in the country. And I just want to give a shout out to the Vancouver Chinatown Association. They too have been instrumental in talking about the history. It's important to be proud of our Chinese Canadian history, and to know that anti-racism wasn't just a COVID thing, but it has happened for a very long time. And so I think it's very important that the government has recognized this with the anti-racism strategy, as well as a secretariat to look closer at really developing better policies that will better support our community. And of course, it's not always just up to the government. So I also have to challenge our Chinese organizations, be it local or at the national level, to get together and really be united in what is needed and to give us some recommendations.
咁即係好似大多倫多中華文化社中心啦，又或者溫哥華嘅唐人街街坊公利會啦。佢葉議員都話，其實呢兩個組織咧都做咗好多，去令到世人係認清真正嘅華人歷史啦，係正確嘅華人歷史啦，係咪？咁佢亦都話咧，唔係一個 organisation 啦，佢自己一個人做得晒嘅，係其實所有華人社區都應該合作啦，政府亦都應該係合作啦，去令到咧如果有真實嘅對歷史有真實嘅了解嘅話咧，就會少啲容易俾人煽動啦，少啲誤會啦，咁就會少啲係歧視啊或者標籤化嘅情況出現嘅。因為呢一個情況咧，亦都唔係淨係疫情嘅時候先出現，其實疫情之前早已經有，不過喺疫情之下咧，我哋會見到多啲圖面嘅 cases， 即係咪啊
Michael？其實咧，我都想問葉議員就話咧，I want to ask our MP that Dr. Wong already mentioned that because of pandemic, because a lot of rumor that the COVID is from China, Wuhan, therefore make the Asian discriminations much worse in Canada, not just in Canada, worldwide. What do you think about these kinds of problems? This became more and more serious because of the pandemic, or as Dr. Wong mentioned, that it already happened before pandemic. What's your opinion on that?
My opinion is that it's a very sad presumption, and that we need to look at facts. And it's also good that the previous president of the United States is no longer the president. We have a much more progressive President Biden, who recognizes the impact of certain very discriminating statements and misleading statements has had an impact on the Asian American community. And also within our own country too, you can see some of the impact on us as well. But I think it's important to know that that the U.S. as well as the World Health Organization will be doing investigations and seeing what the origins of the virus is. I think from a science point of view, that's where we have to go. Go by fact and see what we can do so that we don't have a repeat. We should have everybody globally, learned the lessons of SARS. And perhaps if we had taken that into account, it wouldn't have been as serious. But now that we know about this pandemic, we should be able to work together globally as well as domestically to ensure that we are better prepared for future pandemics. And I believe that there will be more of this. I know it sounds negative, but it's better to be organized and planned and be realistic, right? At least now that when anyone in the Asian community wears a mask now, everybody
knows.
That's right. That's right. So now you can, it doesn't matter if you're Asian or if you're not, you know, everyone wearing a mask, it's totally acceptable now. And we have to hand it. Yeah, that's right. And we have to hand it to the Asian community, who was at the very forefront, very conscious about the health hygiene and wearing masks and being social distancing and so forth. And also instrumental in the donation of a lot of PPE to many communities, including mine in Scarborough Agincourt. So that's something that needs to be recognized and thanked.
咁啊，議員咧其實都多謝華人社區咧喺呢個疫情上面做咗貢獻啦。我哋係非常早最早嗰批咧係覺得要洗手啦、戴口罩啦，同埋買好你個足夠嘅日用品，而家係屋居家隔離嘅。咁佢哋都多謝佢個市區裏邊咧有好多善長仁翁咧係買咗口罩或者所需嘅防疫用品咧係捐俾社區裏邊唔同有需要嘅人啦，又或者機構嘅。咁其實嘉禾咧都係受惠過嘅。
Actually, I want to add something. You know, back in March last year, so I went to a board executive meeting, and there was multicultural. There was South Asian. There was a South Asian executive who's telling, you know, a sort of joking, you know, how come you Chinese are so stupid, you know, to wear the mask? You know, it's not necessary, right? So now I know that she's wearing the mask. So she just slapped herself, you know. But I think the important thing is sometimes, you know, it's like a change, you know. Everybody resists change, you know, and they don't anticipate or they don't feel the danger of this coronavirus, given that we have the SARS experience, right? So totally entirely, you know, different behavior. But sometimes, you know, we also have to allow people for some time to absorb, you know, then, you know, something that they have to change, right? 咁所以即係其實即係我覺得就即係一開始嗰陣時好多人唔接受，但係家下都接受啦，係咪咁？所以 this is a process that we will have to go through, yeah.
其實議員頭先提咗一點都好重要，想提一提就話咧，關於我問到話嗰個大流行嘅時候咧，因為好多時啲人就話嗰個病毒係嚟自中國武漢咧，從而引發到對亞裔嘅歧視咧。我問係咩意見咧？話其實呢啲事情已經差唔多過去，因為隨住美國總統落任新嘅總統拜登上台嘅話咧，大家一定要基於事實，基於一啲真實嘅情況去評估現實情況嘅話咧，換言之咧，如果真係冇呢咁嘅誤會存在嘅話咧，用事實去睇清呢個形勢嘅話咧，對大家判斷嗰個疫情或者判斷嗰個應付嘅方法都有好處嘅。呢個係葉議員提出嚟提醒下我哋咁樣。
Yeah, actually, I want to feedback on that. You know, ever since Biden, you know, get elected, I think all these anti-Asian racism start to happen. You guys draw the correlation. It wasn't as big, you know, last year. Last year is all Black Lives Matter. But this year, you know, starting right, you know, even in January, you know, with the San Francisco Asian old man was being attacked. Since then, you see all kinds of things happen. 所以我唔知道係咪即係 we are being scapegoat 因為 Trump 輸咗。
Well, I think it's the impact of his comments and having it be able to kind of stir the pot, stay in the pot, and then people think about it because it's been out there. And once they took away his social media access, I think that was important. You cut off the stem of misinformation.
小心用新聞，小心睇資料，唔知真假嗰陣時 check 下官網係咪先？其實政府咧嘅 writing 咧係一個小六嘅 level 嘅英文嚟嘅啫，其實 check 嗰個官網真係唔難嘅。監製，我哋剩翻1-2分鐘，你要唔要 wrap up 啊？
Yeah, no, I don't. I think we need the MP Sean to sort of wrap up this conversation. You have anything to add?
你成日叫錯人哋嘅名，人哋嘅 Gene 啊。
專業 not sorry. I apologize. 專業
okay. You know, I'm very happy to have had this conversation with you. I started off feeling a little lightheaded from, I think it was the effect of the shots, but the more we all talked, the better I feel. And getting some very important topics like anti-Asian racism, mental health, just about some of the infrastructure projects that are so important to keep Scarborough going. It's all very relevant. But what I want to remind everybody is if you haven't had your first shot, do get your first vaccination shot. My office can help. Just reach out to us, and there are any number of opportunities to still be able to get your first shot. There's no shame in, you know, coming to the party now, right? And of course, I encourage everybody to finish it off by getting your second dose. It's important that we be fully vaccinated, especially in the fall with the children going back to work, more people returning back to work full time. We want to go back to normalcy as soon as possible. And if we all do our part, we can get there faster. And I also want to thank everybody for their efforts in getting there. It's been a long time. And so go out and support some local businesses, you know, be safely distanced and wear a mask and shop, as well as eat out on a patio dining area. It's quite nice so far.
嗱，頭先講嘅咧，大家要留意有契機嘅。佢話嗱，秋天咧，我哋個個人翻晒工、翻晒學，可以出去食飯嗰陣時咧，咁嘅意思即係快啦。咁但係我哋要去做到嗰段時間之前咧，都係啦，同即係平時咧我講嘅冇鬼用嘅，係咪先？咁但係葉議員都話啦，如果你未有打第一針，唔該快啲去打。咁你未打完第二針，咪快啲完埋佢，咁你就可以咧回復呢個正常生活啦。因為過去嗰年幾咧，無論係對個人嘅心理健康啦、家庭嘅和諧嘅影響啦，同埋經濟影響都好大啦。咁其實聯邦政府亦都攞咗好多納稅人嘅錢去買呢啲針啦。喺呢個世界各地裏邊，唔係個個地方都可以有啲咁高質素嘅針。咁我哋要珍惜啦，我哋去可以身體承受到啊，打嘅話咧就可以做你自己嘅本分咧，令到我哋係有群體免疫嘅，係咪咁樣見？
今日多謝晒專業啊！
休息下啦。
Thank you very much. No, I feel, yeah, thank you so much. I feel energized after our conversation. It's been a really good conversation, and I'm happy to come back anytime to talk to your listeners or answer their questions.
We will definitely invite you for more conversation to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.